The town of Cumberland, Maryland is nestled against the Allegheny Mountains, nearly 140 miles west of Baltimore, and very close to the border with West Virginia. The railroads built up Cumberland from a small canal town to a major industrial trading center in a matter of several years. But over time, all the railroads that once served Cumberland were absorbed into the CSX transportation system. However, one railroad, the Western Maryland, has survived the merger, to an extent. On a segment of the former Western Maryland and Cumberland and Pennsylvania trackage, the current Western Maryland Scenic Railroad takes passengers on a ride back in time to the glory days of steam railroading. In September of 2013, the mountain climbing tourist line threw itself a rock-licking 25th anniversary party. With 3 steam engines running, a night photo session, and a full weekend of excursions, the railroad gave attendees a show they never forget. Join Railfan Productions as we present this video tribute to the wild and wonderful Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. We begin our journey at the 1913 built passenger station in downtown Cumberland, Maryland. The Western Maryland Railway used this structure as a passenger station until the 1950s, when it discontinued its passenger trains. It later served as the office building for the railroad until its absorption into the chassis system in the early to mid-1970s. The station was restored in 1990 by the city of Cumberland after its purchase, which was only $1, and it now hosts the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad's offices, a visitor center for the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historic Park, and is the meeting place for the Western Maryland chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. Parked beside the station are 2 SD-45 diesel locomotives, which came from the Georges Creek Railway. They're temporarily on display while waiting for the railroad to complete more track work. For the 25th anniversary celebration, 2 visiting tank engines are providing train rides to various points on the railroad. East Coast Company No. 6 pulled short trips into the Narrows on Saturday, while also taking trips to Ridgely, West Virginia on Sunday. Flag Coal Company No. 75 would take passengers to Ridgely on Saturday and then run the Narrows trips on Sunday. In addition to the short trips run by the tank engines, the Western Maryland Scenic had their own steam locomotive, number 734, powering the regular excursion train up to Frostburg. Number 734 is considered the workhorse of the line and the only steam engine on the roster. But one of the interesting things about 734 is the fact that she was never an original Western Maryland engine. She was built in 1916 by Philadelphia's Baldwin Locomotive Works for the Lake Superior and Ishpeming Railroad as engine number 34. The Husky 280 pulled trainloads of iron ore from the Republic mines to the docks at Marquette for the Great Lakes freighters until the late 1950s, when she was retired. After sitting idle for over 20 years, the engine was donated to the Illinois Railway Museum in Union, Illinois for static display. Then, in 1991, the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad bought number 34 for use on their line. with the intent of making her over into a true Western Maryland consolidation. By 1993, the transformation was complete, and Western Maryland 734 was ready to start excursion service. Now, there was an actual 734 on the original Western Maryland roster, but the American Locomotive Company's Richmond, Virginia works built the original engine in 1911. When placed side by side, you can see how the two locomotives differ in appearance. Aesthetically, the current 734 is more identical to the H9 class 280s, numbered in the 800 series, built by Baldwin beginning in 1921. When compared to this photo of engine number 804, taken at Rutherford, Pennsylvania in 1939, the current 734 has almost all the same trademarks, from the long-haul tender to the massive cylinders and smoke box arrangement. As the train stands and waits for passengers to board, let's have a look at the route. Departing the station in Cumberland, the tracks will follow Wills Creek while passing under the CSX double-track main line and Market and Valley streets. Entering the Narrows, the train will cross over US Route 40 before negotiating the first horseshoe curve near the hamlet of Craigbaum. Further down the line is the second and most famous of the horseshoes, Helmstedter's Curve. After ducking through the 914-foot-long brush tunnel, the train rounds the final horseshoe curve near Woodcock Hollow. The final assault on the mountain begins at the tracks past the town of Mount Savage and continue over former Cumberland and Pennsylvania roadbed to reach the end of the line in Frostburg. Our chase begins in the Narrows, just west of Cumberland. This 620-foot natural cutting splits Wills Mountain on the east side and Haystack Mountain on the west side. The level ground at the bottom of the cutting leaves just enough room for Wills Creek, US Route 40, the CSX main line, and the tracks of the Western Maryland Scenic. Helmstedter's Curve is one of the most photographed locations on the entire railroad. It's so named because the curve runs around the Helmstedter's family farm. Noted railroad photographer Bill Price shot tons of pictures at his location of steam and diesel-powered trains tracking the grade during the days of the Western Maryland. And now, we get to see the power of the 734 as she climbs around the curve on her way to Frostburg. After passing through Brush Tunnel, the train continues to climb uphill through Woodcock Hollow. As the train passes through Mount Savage, it passes under a signal bridge that once controlled train movements when the line was double-tracked. A long climb up the eastern face of the Allegheny Mountains, Mountain Thunder, the nickname of the locals give 734, and her train arrive at the town of Frostburg. passengers have the opportunity to wander into town during the 2-hour layover and have lunch in the 1891 built station. After all the passengers disembark, 734 is uncoupled from its train and turned on the turntable for the return trip. The turntable itself originally came from Elkins, West Virginia, and was part of the Western Maryland engine facility there. Just beyond the turntable pit, you can make out the remains of an old tunnel that used to run right underneath the town of Frostburg. The Cumberland in Pennsylvania once used the tunnel to reach the coal fields of Georges Creek Valley, just south of town. As 734 rolls off the turntable, she runs around the train and will couple up to the other end for the return trip to Cumberland. Returning to Helmstedter's Curve, we find a metal sign, raised in memorial of David Goodhart, a noted railroad photographer and video producer. David had hosted several photo charters on the railroad from 1999 to 2003, and Helmstedter's Curve was his favorite spot. David passed away in 2004, but in honor of his love for Helmstedter's Curve, it was a sensible location for Goodhart's memorial service in May of 2005. In this photo, taken by M. Ross Valentine, number 734 stands solemnly at the curve as Western Maryland Scenic Superintendent Doug Beveridge present David's mother and sister with memorial plaques dedicated to his memory. The Goodhart Memorial is still standing at the curve and is visible to train riders, users of the trail, and photographers who stand in the nearby cemetery to catch the train. Under any rainy skies, Mountain Thunder glides downhill around the curve and past the memorial, headed for home. As 734 and her train leave Cumberland and head for Ridgely Yard, we bid farewell to the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad and congratulate them on 25 years of good service. If you would like to order tickets, find out more information, or volunteer your services to the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, you can visit the railroad's website at www.wmsr.com or call 1-800-TRAIN-50. The railroad runs from May to December, and most trips are powered by steam locomotive number 734. But other excursions are run with 2 GP30 diesel locomotives on selected dates. Everyone at Railfan Productions hopes you have enjoyed viewing a scenic silver anniversary, and we look forward to bringing you more exciting rail fanning adventures from around the country.